Hey Geeks, welcome to Season 2, Episode 20 of Geek.0. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sean Michael.
We're coming back after a couple-week layoff here. Had some interesting things happen that weren't necessarily positive, but we're going in a new direction with with our website, with our show, focusing a little bit more on the fun, a little bit less on being a all-out news outlet for you guys. But we're still going to do our thing here. We're still going to record Geek.0 every week now that we've got our feet back underneath us. And then we actually started a new show this week, just yesterday. Yeah. We recorded. It's called Chris Finally Sees. Basically making fun of the fact that I don't have any time to watch anything. And so when I get to see something, it's a momentous occasion and we should be shooting off fireworks. But we got three main topics to talk about tonight. And since we've been gone, for the last 3 weeks, the two main topics that have really still been stuck in the news are the iPhone 7 and the PS4 Pro. We're also going to talk, shockingly, a little bit about Blackberry tonight.
Blackberry found a way to get back in the news.
Yeah.
And it's not for what you think.
No, it's not exactly a positive thing. So we watched the iPhone 7 event back on the 8th. And then we watched the PlayStation 4 event also on the 8th. One was good. One wasn't. One was definitely underwhelming.
Yeah, to say the least.
So how about we let's do a negative, positive, negative sandwich here. And we'll go PlayStation, iPhone 7, Blackberry. So, wow. Okay, the PlayStation 4 Pro, the PlayStation event happened and it looked like nobody wanted to be there, especially Sony. Right?
Yeah. So, the PlayStation event, I, as well as much of the rest of the world, were really curious to see what they were going to do. We knew that they were going to be unveiling the Neo, is what we were calling it at the time, the code name. And it would pretty much been confirmed by just about every major news outlet on the planet for weeks prior, or at least for about 10 days prior to the show, that there was the PS4 quote-unquote Slim. Yep. It had been out in the wild. Numerous people had taken screenshots of them. Many people had them for sale on Gumtree over in the UK. As a matter of fact, I forget which news outlet went out and took a video recording.
Engadget, I think it was.
I know it was Eurogamer.
Eurogamer. That's right.
Eurogamer went actually to the home of the guy who bought the original and filmed him. And Sony went on a mass tirade of making everybody on the internet take these videos down because they didn't want anybody stealing the thunder of this announcement. So you and I had talked about this prior to the show, and I was like, I'm curious to see how Sony's going to handle this. Obviously, they're concerned that they don't have a ton to show off at the show, and this was supposed to be one of the big reveals, and now it's out there, and they're ticked. And sure enough, the show happened, and I will tell you this, as an ardent Sony fanboy, as somebody who's an unbelievable dying love for this company and everything it makes, at least from the PlayStation division, it broke my heart to watch this show. Andrew House,
he looked like he'd gone through a boxing match.
He did.
And had been whipped.
Well, he looked good. Andrew House always looks good, but what you could see is the fire wasn't in his eyes.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
He looked literally defeated. He looked completely defeated. They walked onto the stage. It was the most underwhelming presentation. Very little hoopla. The room felt like there might be 12 or 13 journalists in it total. And they basically said, "Here we are. Yes, we're Sony. We have this press conference. Here are these two things. One is the PlayStation 4 Slim." What's interesting is they made absolutely no tongue-in-cheek joke, no comments at all about the fact that it had well been out there in the news and confirmed. They just said, here's the PlayStation quote-unquote Slim. They said it's actually the new PS4.
Yeah, it's PlayStation 4.
Correct. That is the new standard PS4, is this marzipan-looking block of black plastic. And then also our quadruple decker sandwich
and then the letdown
of black plastic, which is the PlayStation 4 Pro.
Yeah. And
I gotta say, I was expecting so much more.
Yeah.
What we got a more powerful GPU.
Yep.
We got some overclocking on the CPU, a much more powerful GPU.
We got more teraflops.
Yeah, we got more teraflops, but nothing that really stands out. So the numbers on paper went up. And but what it came down to, once we got done to the end of the show, the real brass tacks to the PS4 Pro are that on paper it's got lots of power, but it still is only going to be upscaling 4K content. It doesn't have native 4K. It also lacks, inexplicably, a Blu-ray 4K player.
Right.
Which makes absolutely no sense.
Now, I will say, Sony came out in the couple days following the conference saying that 80-some-odd% of the people that use their PlayStation for media use it for streaming, and hardly anybody watches a Blu-ray
Absolutely
on their PlayStation.
No excuse.
But, yeah.
No excuse. So here's the deal. For those who remember the PS3 launch, the PS3, what made that system? When that system launched, it was a disaster. It was a burning garbage fire. When that system launched,
Xbox One.
When it launched, it was massive. It was shiny. It was $799 or $699, $700, and didn't deliver on promise. But it came with a Blu-ray player, and mind you, at the time when Blu-ray was a new technology, it came with
over $1,000 for a Blu-ray.
Absolutely, the best Blu-ray player on the market, and basically that's what the system sold on for the first 2 years. Was the premise that you could actually have the best Blu-ray player on the market with a game system for free,
pretty much,
for $300 less than you could pay for the standalone unit.
You could put Linux on it at the time.
Yeah. So I mean. So here's the company, Sony, the company that championed this new format and won the format war. And they stomped Microsoft and their partnership with Hitachi over the HD DVD. And then what happens is, or I think it was Toshiba, but nonetheless, they come to market with the PS4 Pro, and it doesn't even pack a next-generation drive in it. And here's the deal. Now, Microsoft made a tongue-in-cheek tweet during the show that made light of the fact that the Xbox One S, which had been launched weeks prior, does 4K, HDR, and it also has a 4K Blu-ray player in it. And guess what?
Low cost of
$299,
not $399.
And I mean, it was a really low blow considering how bad the show was already going for Sony. But they made a really valid point, because Sony went on and on and on about HDR. They knew they weren't presenting anything that was groundbreaking in the 4K department. They knew they'd gotten beat by Microsoft, and at that point, as far as what the PS4 Pro is. And so they went on and on and on about the advantages of HDR. But here's the deal. You gotta have a TV capable of it for the HDR to make a difference.
But you could say the exact same thing about 4K. So
you can, but more people have 4K sets than have 4K HDR
like
sets.
Us. We both have 4K TVs that aren't HDR capable.
So that's where we start to get into this issue where, Sony, they just didn't make a good showing. No. And it was really sad. Like, I wanted to see them come out and have some news for PlayStation VR. I wanted to see them, have a few things to say about, all of the power and features in the PS4 Pro. And to add insult to injury, it doesn't even look good. And it's an ugly system.
Calling it Pro is insulting to the moniker of Pro.
Yeah,
I'll say that
because it's a half step.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And that's what's weird, is both Microsoft and Sony have been clear in trying to make sure people understand that these mid-generation console refreshes aren't necessarily the big new and improved consoles. They're meant to be refreshes with slightly higher-end hardware. But if you're going to use that philosophy, okay, and put that out there to people, don't call the system a Pro version.
Yeah.
Call it the PS4 Plus or the Neo, but don't make it out to be like, because Pro moves it into that upper echelon of performance hardware, and that's not what we got with the PS4 Pro.
No, not at all. And it's mind-boggling to me that they would even, once they saw what the Xbox One S was, and with all the rumors of what the Xbox Scorpio is going to be, they should have just scrapped it.
Yep.
They should have taken the processor, maybe taken a lower powered version of said processor, and put it in the PS4 Slim or
Absolutely.
The new PS4.
Yep.
The fact that it has the exact same capabilities as the Xbox One S without the drive is is
for $100
for
more.
$100 more is
Yeah.
insane.
It's a new console for $400.
And I guess, yeah, technically it is more powerful than an Xbox One S. It is more teraflops. It's got a more powerful GPU. But so what? They both still upscale to 4K. I mean, I guess you may get a few more frames per second, a few more, but I know. I mean, and maybe we'll get. I guess kind of what they're getting at with it is that they're going to get higher stable frame rates on 1080p with the Pro,
correct,
versus what you're going to see on the Xbox One S. So it's going to be interesting to see them side by side in performance.
That's where the proof is going to be in the pudding. Andrew House has on several occasions since this event gone out publicly in defense of the PS4 Pro announcement.
Yep.
And said that it's not about the numbers on paper. That ultimately, because a lot of people actually lambasted Sony after this and said that they were completely misleading, and quite honestly, they considered that they lied about 4K when they came with the PS4 Pro. And House's response to that, and the line that Sony is towing with this, is it's not about the actual raw performance numbers or capabilities. What it's actually about is, what does the gamer perceive? If a gamer takes this console, hooks it up to a 4K TV, does their jaw drop and do they go, wow, compared to what they'd see with a standard PS4? If that's the case, then this console meets everything that they were trying to do.
Right.
And I get where he's going with that. They're taking the Nintendo philosophy. Well, kind of.
But the problem with that is, how's Nintendo doing right now with that philosophy?
Nintendo says it's all about the gameplay.
Yeah.
It's not about graphics. And what Sony's here saying is, it's not necessarily about graphic
It's not about the resolution.
It's not about necessarily about what the raw resolution is, but does it look like the resolution is better?
Right.
And here's the deal, folks. Neither Chris nor I have actually had an opportunity to see this console or play with it.
No.
It's on pre-order. We ordered it the moment it became available. Waiting for it to come in. But here's the deal. Digital Foundry did a pretty concise breakdown of 3 or 4 games from EGX on the PS4 Pro. And they noticed some pretty interesting things. And they're not necessarily terrible, but they're not good. Not the least of which is there's a lot of checkerboarding. Which is that stair-step issue that you see during. One of the things they noted is in almost every single game, when the game is standing completely still, the PS4 produces literally native 4K. Like, if you were to go put your face on the screen, you'll actually see the images aligning perfectly with the grid without any issues. So, but here's the problem. These are video games, not pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
Never is someone standing still, perfectly still in a video game and just looking at the scenery. I can think of a couple games where I bothered to do that for a few moments just because they were so beautiful. Mm-hmm. But one of the games I got to play was Infinite Warfare, a game from a company, EA, who... not EA, from Activision, who are well known for the level of detail and depth they put in their games.
Right.
They're all about the looks. I mean, Ghosts had amazing, the Kevin Spacey and the cutscenes.
Yeah.
It's a gorgeous game. And they said, yeah, it looks better.
Yeah.
But does it look $400 for a new console better?
Not so much.
Can't say so much. And keep in mind, all of this is pre-release, but they played through Rise of the Tomb Raider, and when they compared them to 4K on a PC, it's not even it's not even a comparison. It's not even a comparison. When playing in a true native 4K,
comparing a GTX 1080 to a PlayStation 4 is not
understandable. Or an $1,800 computer with a $700 graphics card in it, compared to a Pro. But here's the deal. Sony created that comparison.
Yes, they did.
So if you're taking a standard PS4 where they, market it as a 1080p system and stack it up to a 4K computer, then at that point, you know what I mean? That's an unfair comparison. But Sony went up on stage, in an ill-advised motion and said, here's our new 4K capable console. And so... I don't know. Obviously, the jury remains, the jury's still out. We have to actually see this thing physically in person. We're going to do an in-depth breakdown of how things look on it on a standard 1080p TV as well as a 4K display. We'll also hook it up to a 4K HDR display as well so we can see the color differences there. And we'll go from there once we get our hands on it.
I still really feel like this console exists to push PlayStation VR. I think that's the whole purpose of the PlayStation Pro, and they didn't want to say that because and get where I'm coming from here.
Okay.
I'm not saying that the new PlayStation or the PlayStation Slim or the OG PlayStation 4 or whatever. I'm not saying it won't push the PlayStation VR, but it's not going to make it as pretty.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
And VR developers have very clearly said that already.
And I think, so the whole reason that they're putting this console out is to push the PlayStation VR, but they don't want to scare people away from PlayStation VR by saying you have to have the Pro console to get the best VR experience. So I think they're just shooting themselves in the foot a little bit here. I agree. They would have been better to not put out this console, or heck, call Nvidia and see if they get a 1060 chip to you.
See, I do not understand why everyone's still. I understand the cost, but when these companies are looking to make next generation consoles, and obviously the advancements have all been graphical, okay. Yeah. Why everyone's still clinging to the loser in the graphics market, which is the AMD market? I understand their chips are cheaper, but
there's a reason.
I'm wondering if Sony or Microsoft. I challenge right now today. I challenge both companies' assertions that these are the last consoles that they're going to build.
Nah. No way. Definitely not in Sony's.
Regardless of they don't have a choice now. Regardless of whether or not they plan on refreshes. Here's my bet. I'm willing to bet that the next major revision console from one of these companies will be NVIDIA powered, not AMD powered. I think it's time for them to take it to the next level.
I agree.
And on that note, you and I talked about this earlier. Far and away, well confirmed by every viable source out there, the PlayStation has been stomping the Xbox One in sales, and of course in amount of actual active users.
Right.
So Sony went to this presentation and basically handed a 40 million unit lead to Microsoft.
Yeah.
Because just before they unveiled this ugly black brick with multiple layers of a PlayStation 4 Pro, Microsoft took their disgustingly ugly giant black brick of an Xbox One and hired a kid who had posted in a contest to redesign the Xbox One and created this gorgeous, insanely beautiful console that now is not only is this console gorgeous in itself, but now they've got like 25 different special edition versions of it.
There's NFL editions, there's Lamborghini editions, there's
the
a
Audi
gray
R8,
one, there's a black one, there's a white one, there's a
the white, the military green, the gunmetal gray.
Oh, the military green was really cool.
So I mean, the Xbox One S is a truly awesome console. Not only is it beautiful, it's something that you'd be proud to display out and have people see.
Yep.
But it's 4K and HDR capable, and it has a stinking Blu-ray player.
And it's $100 cheaper.
And it's $299. It's the same price as buying a
PlayStation Slim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I mean, so Sony I really am interested to see what they're going to do. I understand that a 40 million lead is nothing to scoff at. I understand that they're not going to suddenly just, Microsoft's not going to suddenly see a massive sales increase. Not enough to equate, the lead that they have.
Well, Blackberry used to be the king of smartphones too, so.
We'll see how this all goes. I am curious to see what Sony does with it. I don't think that they're going to continue to bungle it. I see them trying several things to turn this around, because let's not forget that close to 70% of Sony's revenue at this point is from the PlayStation brand. They are not in a position to be able to afford,
this could be a major problem for Sony, not just as PlayStation, but as a entire corporate entity. It could be a big deal that they, as far as I'm concerned, at this point, without having seen it, swung and miss.
Yeah. So now that Sony made us all sad, what happened with Apple?
They need to take lessons from Apple on how to do a freaking press conference. I'll tell you that much.
You know what? I almost wish we had been able to see the Sony press conference first and then see the Apple.
Yeah.
And I wonder if at any point they watched the Apple conference and went, man, that is how you do it. That's how you get people excited
Someone get James Corden on the phone. Someone get Jimmy Fallon.
Because here's the deal, folks. I'm going to let Chris talk about it because he's actually the Apple guy. He has one.
Well, calling me an Apple guy is fair.
Chris has an actual iPhone, so he's got more frame of reference than I do with my Note 7.
I'll say that. People accuse me of being anti-Apple all the time. I'm anti-overpriced.
Amen.
So that's what makes me seem anti-Apple.
But both of these companies did the same thing this day.
Yes.
Honestly, they both unveiled a new product that is a marginal improvement over the previous.
Yeah.
Nothing groundbreakingly amazing
No.
to the point of being like must rush to the store to get it.
Right.
But significant enough of an upgrade to be, to warrant notice. But Apple's, people were lining up in certain places to go grab one.
It blows my mind that they're still selling out. That, I mean, yes, the processor is faster. Yes, the screen is prettier.
It's beautiful for an iPhone.
But you qualify. See, it's beautiful,
that's true.
For an iPhone.
It is. I've been used to those displays for 3-4 years
well, that's
now.
what I'm saying. It still doesn't have OLED. It's still...
Have you... When you looked at it at Sprint, did you put your face down on the phone and look at it?
I did. It's a pretty phone, but you can...
For an LCD, that's the first time I've ever seen an LCD that gives an OLED a run for its money.
It's as smooth a resolution on an LCD phone
I've ever seen.
Screen as I've seen.
Yeah.
I didn't have my glasses on though, so it probably had a little bit of fuzz on it.
It's pretty sexy.
But it's a good looking phone. The jet black looks really good, except for the fact that if you breathe on it, it'll scratch. But I mean, the new dual lens camera on the Plus is great. I think that is really where the fact that people are lined around the block is. They all want jet black iPhone 7 Pluses, and I can't blame them. The stereo speakers are nice. I still really struggle with the lack of the headphone jack. And the reason I struggle with it so much is that it was a unnecessary money grab. Yeah. For that and to when they said that it took courage to take the headphone jack off of the phone, it made me want to puke in my mouth.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that was insane.
Not only was it insane, it was deluded and self-righteous.
That's exactly what it was. So it was a little bit Jobsian. So
yeah, Apple has been in the business of telling people what they want now for over a decade.
Yeah.
So to say that it took courage to make that decision, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
It took the board going, this is a way for us to rake in a ton more money.
Yeah, licensing on every single thing that hooks into the phone.
And once again, to move people into our walled garden.
Yep.
Because here's the deal. Once they did that, they removed one of the last access points for third-party accessories on the system. So,
I will give them a little bit of credit for including the dongle inside the phone box.
That's a first. They could have charged $29 for that.
I truly, honestly expected them to charge for it.
Yep.
Like at least $14.99. No way any less than that. But it was, it was a great presentation. They made me want an Apple Watch. I had not wanted an Apple Watch before now.
Beautiful.
Would love to have a ceramic one, not spending $1,800 on one. If I'm going to spend $1,800 on a watch, I'm going to get a good watch, not one that's going to be obsolete in a year.
And mind you, the Apple Watch 2, while it is a significant improvement over the first one, actually the Apple Watch Series 2 is the watch they should have released in the first place.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
But nonetheless, if you don't have an Apple Watch, this is the first time there's a compelling reason to consider one. If you are a sports fanatic or a workout enthusiast who's been looking for a quality fitness tracker that also is a great looking device to have on your wrist that you wear all the time, this is the device for you, period.
Yeah.
But if you're already an Apple Watch user or owner, there's not enough compelling reason here for you to upgrade.
I mean, the water protection is nice. It's slimmer, it's a little faster. But yeah, if you already have an Apple Watch, you don't need to upgrade to a Series 2 unless you're a swimmer.
Yeah.
So, I thought the Apple event was pretty good. I was a little surprised there was no mention of any kind of iPad. Also surprised there was no mention of any kind of refresh on the MacBooks.
I'm disappointed there, but they're coming. We know they're coming.
I know they're coming. They need to. They've had the same freaking computer for 3 or 4 years now, maybe longer. So good event. It was exciting. That's the thing about it is even though I don't want an iPhone 7,
right?
I'm willing to wait to see what the next one's going to be. I'm going to put my foot in the ground. They're either going to call it the iPhone 10 or the iPhone X. like OS X
Gotcha.
or OS
Move
10.
away from the numerical nomenclature.
Yeah, well, just to
or the sequential.
It's 10th anniversary. We're not going to put an S on it. Next year is when we're going to see integrated home button, OLED screen. The rumor floating around now is a ceramic body, which if iPhone can figure out how to do a ceramic phone that won't break, they'd be able to pack a lot more performance in the phone because of how well ceramic dissipates heat.
Yeah.
It could very easily be the fastest phone on the market, no doubt, because of the heat dissipation capabilities of the phone. But it just goes to show that Apple knows how to market a product. They know how to make a product that people want, even if they don't really want it. Because there's been a huge outcry online about the headphone jack. And I was going to say this a little bit ago, but if I wouldn't have as big a problem with it as if Apple had gone to USB Type-C.
Yeah.
Because they swore up and down that it was going to make it sound better and it was going to be better audio quality and blah, 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 blah. But it's been proven by testing and research that USB Type-C delivers a better audio quality sound than Lightning does. So if they were really truly worried about the audiophile portion of it, they would have gone with USB Type-C.
Right.
But that doesn't get them their $6 licensing fee on every piece of headphones.
Yeah, that's just their marketing department pushing the agenda.
Exactly. And so it would have been nice because USB Type-C resolves a lot of the problems that Apple has had with USB other forms where, trying to jam the thing in the wrong way, it causes problems and blah, blah, blah. And they want a multi-side connector. So USB Type-C would make sense on an iPhone. It's a faster transfer rate. It's better audio quality.
It does. It makes sense. It makes sense for the market and for the consumer.
But it doesn't
make sense for Apple. And that's because Apple is the 2016 version of the 1990s Sony. Apple is all about proprietary hardware and connectors. Apple never wants to use anything that's an industry standard, and Apple wants to make their own standard.
Yeah, they want to force you into something you don't actually need, which is
I get that.
Good on them if they can keep selling this stuff.
I mean, for their shareholders, it's exceptional because they create new technologies that, because they have such a wide user base with the iPhone, get adapted quickly. But for the general consumer, it's not always as good. If you look back at the track record of Apple's, the things they've killed off, hardware technologies they've killed off, and the things they've experimented with, it's kind of hit or miss. Some things have been exceptional wins,
and they've done a really good job. They've done a really good job pushing the envelope on technologies too. I mean, they were the first to ditch the disk drive, which is great, and we're all basically digital now. Though I will say, traveling, so it'd be nice to have like a folder of Blu-rays that I could carry around with me to put into my Ultrabook, but. I'm not going to buy a Blu-ray drive. But so they've done pretty well with most of that stuff.
Right. And
Thunderbolt.
That's why when their events come, I don't necessarily anymore get excited about Apple's products. It's not the products that excite me anymore. It's the tech.
Yeah.
For example, the way that the iPhone, or I should say, the way that the Apple Watch Series 2, the speaker is used to expel water from. Yeah. I saw a demonstration of how that actually works internally.
Yeah.
And it's pretty impressive tech.
Yeah.
And so that's where we start to see things. And then this new A10 Fusion chip, where we start to see things that are pretty impressive from Apple, and we start to see the overall picture of where Apple's headed with this. Right. Apple is building a really strong economy. Their chip designers are geniuses.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job.
I've seen some benchmarks on the A10 Fusion processor that's on the iPhone that show that it's more powerful than the 2013 MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
And more powerful than any version of the
MacBook
Air.
Pro the same as the 2016 MacBook Pro.
Wah. So, I mean, Apple's got some innovation. You're right, and they do some cool stuff. The iPhone 7 and the 7 Plus, the 7 Plus's camera is compelling, but it's certainly not enough to rush out and get a phone.
Outside of the camera, because the camera's better on the 7 as well, not just the Plus.
Correct.
It just doesn't have the dual lens capability.
Right, it doesn't have some of
the
bokeh features.
Unless you are, I don't even want to say a photographer, because you're not going to be a professional photographer that uses your iPhone. But if you're like Instagram famous or something, then it makes sense for you to go get an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 7 Plus and a better camera. Yes. But for you, me, Joe Schmo down the street,
that's true.
A 6S,
the cameras that we have now are so far beyond.
A 6S is plenty fine. So like I said, I am excited to see what the next one's going to be. This one's fine. It's
Right.
fine. iOS 10, now that I've played with it a little bit, once again, it's fine. There's some things about it that I really don't like. It seems like everything has an extra step to it now that
I
it didn't
gotcha.
have before. Like if I want to view if I want to read an email, I have to swipe over and then hit. If I want to delete an email right from my home screen on my lock screen, I have to swipe the email, view the email, then delete the email. Where before it was swipe, tap, delete. And that was
I
it.
gotcha.
So there's extra steps involved. I like that I did clear a little bit of space being able to get rid of some native apps.
That's good.
I don't think they completely delete the app. And then there's some other things that annoy me about it, like you can't connect third-party apps to Siri at this point.
Yeah, I did see that somebody from, I want to say Recode, did confirm that in iOS 10, despite any of the claims Apple may have made or alluded to without actually saying, so that they could later go back and say, well, we never actually said.
Right.
In iOS 10, you can't delete native apps.
Yeah, it just deletes.
They does something very similar to what Android does, where it uninstalls all updates for that app and then it hides the app.
Yes.
So you don't see the app anymore, but it takes away any of the updated data that expanded the actual space it takes up on the phone.
Shrinks it a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a little tiny bit of hidden compression.
And when you're on a 16 gig phone, you'll take any little bit of data.
Any little bit you can.
Any little bit of storage you can get. Because one of the things I found is I removed Apple Music from my phone.
Yeah.
I asked Siri what a song was the other day. Couldn't tell me because I didn't have it connected to Apple Music.
See, that's shady crap.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff that I'm saying I dislike from Apple. But here's the deal. Apple's iPhone 7 is not necessarily a compelling enough product to go buy, okay? But nonetheless, it's there. People will. There are people who are just going to do the generational
it's selling out.
upgrade
It's selling out all over the place.
And while it's not the product that I would like it to be, and though Apple keeps trying to tell the world how to use their devices, the fact of the matter is the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus are here and here to stay. You and I will be much more excited about the iPhone 8.
I'm extremely excited to see what's going to happen next year.
But Apple will still be in business and still be making phones.
And way more money than us.
But the same cannot be said
for Blackberry. About 6 years later than it should have been, Blackberry has finally decided to quit producing hardware. It's
Rest in peace.
RIM. No. Oh, that was terrible. Wow, that was bad.
Yeah. Don't cut that out.
And it's not RIM anymore anyway. It became
Blackberry.
Company. And they're still planning on continuing on with their hyper-secured version of Android.
Yes.
And putting it out there as a mod for people, which, okay, that's great. But it's sad that BlackBerry, who, like I said earlier, at one point was the king of the smartphone until iPhone showed up.
I still remember my BlackBerry Curve.
Yeah.
It was one of the best phones I've ever owned.
Yeah.
And I used it. As a matter of fact, I still played with it long after I moved into a smartphone, my first iPhone, just because it was such a great phone.
They were just so bound and determined at BlackBerry to say people don't want a full touch screen.
Yeah,
and they were bound and determined that people wanted a chiclet keyboard.
What's funny is when the entire market.
Yeah.
Okay, not just a few 100,000 consumers.
They didn't release a full touchscreen phone until last year.
Yeah. So until the BlackBerry 10.
Yeah.
In spite of the fact that Apple had moved like hundreds of millions of iPhones.
Yeah.
They were still manufacturing phones with chiclet keyboards.
Yeah.
And saying that, there was enough people out there that wanted the BlackBerry experience to buy the BlackBerry phones. But here's what happened. They kept redesigning the keyboard they said everyone loved, and then people didn't love it.
Yep.
And then when they kept saying there's still enough people out there who want it, well, when they would release the phone, certainly the sales didn't equate with the statement.
Absolutely.
There's that many people out there who want it.
Yeah.
So you would think that BlackBerry would have seen the handwriting on the wall, much like we've been saying about Nintendo for the last 5 years. But you would have think they would have said, okay, we could make amazing services. We could continue with our enterprise stuff and our security side. Okay. Our encrypted messaging.
Yeah.
Okay.
The messaging service is
licensing.
Awesome.
Can you imagine if BlackBerry would have dumped the hardware business back when Apple got into it? Okay.
Yeah, around like the iPhone 3G.
Yeah.
Would have been the perfect time.
Or even the iPhone 4. revel around in a little bit of fantasy land for a tiny bit, and then quit. But can you imagine what would have happened with iMessage if they would have gotten together with Blackberry, and they could have changed the game for corporate communications?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's sad to see Blackberry go. Well, they were a powerhouse.
It took a while for iPhone to become commonplace in corporate.
Yes, it did.
Anyway,
yes, it did.
It kind of went. It went from Palm to Blackberry.
Blackberry could have been key in
absolutely,
escalating
because
that
of
adoption.
The security.
Yep.
And that was part of what kept, because I had an Android phone long before I had an iPhone, corporately provided, and they felt at the time that they could have a better grasp on the security of the phone than they could on an iPhone, because iPhone was so locked down that enterprises could not access it to the point that they wanted to be able to keep it secure in a manner that they felt fit.
Right.
Where BlackBerry did not have that problem. And if if Apple and BlackBerry could have teamed up, it could have gotten, who knows where Apple would even be right now. Yeah. Because they probably would have hit enterprise 2 or 3 years earlier than they actually did. So.
But now they're gone. And it's sad to say that you and it's sad to say that I'm at the age where I can actually say I watched two of the companies that literally built the phone market. Okay, Nokia and BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Two tech giants reach their apex and then fade into obscurity and go out of business. It kind of sucks. It makes you feel old. Really does make you feel old. But it's that's how it is. The technology business moves so fast. You're either exceptionally adept at adapting to the changes and moving forward, or you become a stalwart, and it only takes a small moment of being a stalwart for you to get completely left behind. And BlackBerry, unfortunately, is another cautionary tale at this point.
Well, that's almost, we talked about it a little bit before the podcast. We talked about it at dinner. It's a little bit of a concern I have as we're talking about this about Samsung right now. Because after the Note 7 issue, they issue new Note 7s to people, and there's already a report of one of the new ones blowing up
on somebody's MacBook.
Which
blew up his MacBook.
Irony. But
I will say this. I think companies have got to keep a closer eye on what they do, not only the market but also what they do as a whole. I want to get, because I could go on for 20 minutes about Samsung right now, even as a Samsung fan. I think it's a very curious time for everybody in the market. The market's competitive enough, and there's enough big monsters out there like Apple.
Well, I think once Google comes in with their new phone, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens to the marketplace.
October 4th, folks. Google may take Android back.
Exactly, and that's kind of where I'm at, because right now Samsung's the top of the heap, and then you have LG, HTC, kind of everybody else underneath them. Yeah. And if Google comes out with a phone that specs as strong as a Galaxy phone,
and performs well with pure Android,
doesn't have all the bloat crap on it that Samsung will stick on a phone, or HTC sticks on a phone, or LG sticks on a phone, then they're, that's going to be very, very, very appealing to a lot of Android users.
Mark your calendars, guys. October 4th is Google's event when they're expected to unveil their Pixel phones. That is the big event for Google. We're expecting new tablets, a new Chromebook that has a hybrid ecosystem, which is a hybrid between Chrome OS and Android as an operating system. And then obviously the new Pixel phones from Google, manufactured, we're hearing, hardware-wise by HTC for Google specifically, but Google branded. You won't say HTC anywhere on them.
And HTC has phones. And that's the thing, HTC has the capability to make a good phone.
Yeah, I
had multiple HTCs. Yes. The problem is if you took that HTC phone and it said Samsung on it, they'd sell piles of them. It's the name recognition. People don't think now of HTC as a premier phone provider.
No, they don't.
Even though they build a very nice phone. Yeah. They do. So putting an HTC hardware with a Google name on it is going to be very interesting to see what the capability of the phone is.
And here, I'm going to call it right here. It'll be interesting to see if Google can launch their Google phones, if they can manage and maintain their ecosystem the way Apple does. Meaning, don't let your suppliers, don't let your distributors, Verizon, T-Mobile, AT&T, I'm calling you out right here. Do not let them have any say in how your phone is used, just the way Apple does with their phones.
And no exclusivity deals.
No exclusivity deals. Say, here's the deal. This phone is awesome. Consumers want it. If you want to carry this phone, it'll be sold as it is. This is how we build them. That's how it'll get to the consumer.
You are not putting the NFL mobile app on Verizon.
I literally, you know what? I literally could load a vehicle up with a fertilizer bomb and drive it into a Verizon building over the NFL app.
He meant figuratively.
Figuratively. Just bloatware and forced apps are such a bane on our existence.
Yep.
And we hope that Google takes the right tact with these phones. We'll be interested to see to put an end to that.
To see what the pixels are going to be.
So October 4th, folks, stay tuned.
Yeah.
So that, I think, covers the meat of our show today.
Yeah, that covers all the news. So, Sean?
Yeah.
We're not going to do a Week in Geek, the Week in Geek
this week.
Mostly because we had to cover 2 or 3 things this week.
That's good.
So, what's your geek this week?
So, there's a small company out there called 8BitDo, 8BitDo, and they manufacture a whole line of incredibly awesome small Bluetooth controllers. And most of them are designed after legacy systems like the original Nintendo, the Super Nintendo, things like that. So far, I've bought all of the controllers that they've manufactured because they're all that cool. I've got a small little keychain one that they offer that's really awesome.
I like that one. It's cute.
So they just are right now in the process of marketing one of the controllers they already have.
It's like an old school.
It looks like the controller itself. It looks a lot like a Super Nintendo controller in functionality, or I should say with button placement, mixed with the looks of an original NES controller. Now they're taking that same controller, they're modifying it looks-wise, and they're making it look like an Apple IIe.
Yeah.
And it sits in a little tiny. All of their controllers come with a stand built in somehow, which is really cool, or that comes with. And the new one, actually is a small Apple IIe keyboard that it rests in. But when you lift the controller out of it, it serves as a rest or a mount, I should say, for your iPad or your tablet to sit in to hold it up while you play. So it's very cool. It's on Kickstarter right now. Check them out. 8BitDo, 8BitDo. Go support them. They're trying to raise $15,000. That's it, folks.
That's not bad.
To bring this thing to market, and it's worth your dollars. I'm telling you right now. I've got all their controllers. They're all top notch. They work extremely well. So that's my geek. That's my geek this week.
Sweet.
How about you, man?
Luke Cage.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly because we're recording this before it drops. I cannot wait to see Luke Cage. I wish I was important enough to get a screener. I wish I was Kevin Smith level important, because I know he's seen like the first 7 or 8 episodes of it and said it's amazing. But here again, he thinks everything's amazing at this point.
He's just excited about everything.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to take what he's saying without a grain of salt.
But
yeah.
We love you, Kevin Smith, but you're pretty excitable.
Outside of Thor 2, Marvel hasn't really let me down yet. So I'm willing to give them the Benny of the doubt and say that Luke Cage is going to be awesome. Both of the Netflix series thus far have been amazing. Cannot wait for Luke Cage.
Take Kevin Smith out of the picture. I have seen several independent news outlets who streamed the whole season so far and said it's actually the best Marvel show that Netflix has done yet.
That's very interesting.
That's a big statement.
That's saying a lot.
Especially considering Daredevil and Jessica Jones are as good as they are.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll be interested to see.
I know I'm going to try to watch as much of it on Friday as possible.
Yeah, I will too.
I'm wondering if it drops at midnight. Is that what Netflix does? Do they drop them at midnight, or do they throw them up in a random hour of the day? Sean is efforting it as we speak because, we have these awesome little pocket computers that can find anything. But Not on hotel Wi-Fi.
Yeah. But nonetheless, Luke Cage is coming. It's going to be awesome.
Be here on Friday.
Please, guys, check it out. We will be doing of course, as always, we will be doing a bit on it. We'll let you know what we think of the new season of the latest Marvel edition, and share our thoughts with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna try to, like I said, try to watch as many episodes as possible before I talk about it.
Sweet.
I just don't know how much time I'm gonna have on Friday to bed. That's why I'm hoping it airs at midnight, so that way I can watch some while everybody's asleep.
That's great.
So you can find us at Geek.0.com. You can find us on all social media platforms at Geek.0.
Yep.
That's GEEKPOINT with the number 0 at the end. So for Geek.0, I'm Chris.
And I'm Shawn Michael.
Have a great week, geeks.
Peace.